What's up, moviegoers and true believers? Welcome to another episode of the Real Comics Podcast. I am your host, Voodoo57, and alongside me is my good friend and cohort, as always, Speedy G33. What's up, man?
What is up? Having a fantastic night.
Fantastic night. What's going on in your world real quick?
My daughter graduated. Daughter number 3 graduated from high school. So it's my third one, but it was a good one.
Nice. 3 out of 4. So far, so good. Keeping the streak alive. Awesome. That's great, man. Yeah, my son just came back from college right now. He's taking a break, my middle boy. And yeah, so very cool. Hey, today we got a big show for you folks who are tuning in. Speedy G. We're going to talk X-Men movies of future past. We're going to discuss all the previous X-Men movies and what they mean to the X-Men universe, as well as maybe one little asterisk we're going to throw in there because it needs to be in there, and what may lie ahead as well. So we're going to recap these just ahead of our big X-Men review. Also, we've got plenty of news for you. We're going to introduce something new for you. Speedy G, what do we got new for the folks tonight, just after our news?
We have the Star Wars Minute with Voodoo57.
The Star Wars Minute. It seemed to us, and it just made perfect sense, that pretty much weekly there's something new and breaking on in the Star Wars realm and universe that I want to share with you. However, we must warn you, there could be potential spoilers. So what we're going to do is tell you where you can go and find the articles and see for yourself. Most of them, are considered rumor. But if it's a spoiler and you don't want to know, I'm going to try not to break that too hard on you. So we're going to give that our first try tonight. But let's start with the news. Speedy G, what do you got first up on the news list for yourself?
Oh my gosh, definitely the biggest story is all this DC news. Holy smoke.
Yes.
You know, day after day we get another story. So I guess the biggest one is now that we know Geoff Johns is in charge of the DC universe. Basically, they're trying to make him a Kevin Feige type character. And Johns is good because Johns has been responsible for putting together the television DC universe. And he's done a great job there. So I like that they have him in charge. What's interesting, though, is this a non-story? Are people still doing the job they were doing before? Or is there really a shakeup? And nobody knows for sure. Like, some stories are straight out saying that Zack Snyder is pushed aside. And that he is basically, Johns is working on reworking the ending of Suicide Squad. He is writing the new Batman movie with Ben Affleck, and so that we're getting more of a comic book thing. But DC still says it's a director-driven filmmakers universe they're building, and I call bullshit. They saw what happened, and they are taking charge.
I would tend to agree with you. I'm definitely going to call bullshit on this one. I'm going to call a major shakeup, and oh my God, Batman versus Superman was a bomb in our eyes and didn't make the money it was supposed to make and didn't get the reviews it was supposed to get. That's what I'm saying. I mean, they have succumbed, is what it seems like. They're setting themselves up to make more of a Marvel. Well, let's not get too carried away.
No.
Something similar. I wouldn't call it funny, but something similar along to the true traditional comic book style or story of the movie. What do you think?
Well, I think you can still tell a DC story, which is darker, which those fans want, which is, it doesn't have to be a Marvel story. What I think Marvel does that DC needs to try to do is with Feige, they have somebody who's in control that is saying, okay, you can make your movie, but it has to be 2 hours long. You have to introduce these two characters, and this is the plot line that needs to be furthered.
Right.
Other than that, you do what you want. When I go back and look and I hear all this, well, Snyder's movie was a mess because he wanted it to be 3 hours and they cut it off. They cut it up. Well, he wanted it to be 3 hours, but everybody at Warner Brothers wanted it to be 2. They knew that, so they should have been in charge from the beginning and told him, you're not going to make a 3-hour film. And back in the writing process of this film, they should have said, you need to cut this film down and rewrite it so it's a 2-hour film.
Right.
Because that's what Marvel does. Marvel's not saying you can't give us your film, but Marvel's saying it's going to be this long. And Joss Whedon learned that the hard way. He tried to make it longer with Age of Ultron, and they chopped it.
Right.
So you make the film the length they're telling you, and you introduce the characters you have to introduce, and then you make it. So it's never going to be completely a character-driven, I mean a director-driven movie. I don't care. you know, Warner Bros. Can say it is all they want, but there are certain things they want to be successful. And real quick on another side note, the only thing that worries me about Warner Brothers is they have these knee-jerk reactions, because another big story is the Harley Quinn thing. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my news pieces, but go ahead.
Oh, okay.
No,
well, they've announced there's going to be another Harley Quinn movie, and it's going to probably have Birds of Prey, or it might have some other female villains. Okay, positive note, more female villains and heroes. Good idea. Negative note, we haven't seen the movie yet. How can you spin off a Harley Quinn movie when we don't even know if she's any good? We have seen a trailer. No offense, but we have seen a trailer. What if it's horrible? What if it's not what the fans want? What if they see it and they're like, whoa, you missed the boat on this one. This is not Harley Quinn. This isn't what we want. And you've already locked yourself into a Harley Quinn movie, and now you have to spin your way out of it.
Yeah, I see, but that's the way movie studios are, man. I kind of see this coming. I see them as locking stuff up, and then all of a sudden, I mean, The Inhumans is a good example, okay? They're still saying it's going to happen and it's going to be done, and they're pushing things because things have changed. Certain characters have taken priority, or they want to go a different direction in the Marvel Universe. I feel that's what they're doing here. There's been a lot of buzz about the Harley Quinn character. There's a lot of hype about her before she's even come out. So lock down a story, lock down an idea, lock down a theory, whatever it may be, but it doesn't mean they got to make it happen.
Well, here's the big difference I'm going to tell you about.
Hollywood, man.
No, but here's the big difference. First of all, that isn't what Marvel does. Marvel did not announce another Ant-Man movie until Ant-Man had been out for a while.
Right.
And they showed success. Marvel did not announce another Guardians movie until they were sure Guardians had been a success. They don't announce until you say it's 2 months away. Why can't DC just chill out, let it come out in 2 months? Then we're all like, oh my God, Harley was so awesome. Then you drop that on us.
Yeah, they're banking on it.
We are making a Harley movie, and then we all go through the moon, and DC's the most wonderful, Warner Brothers are genius, and boom, boom, boom. There's no need to tell us this now. It's almost like Civil War's doing really good, so we need to throw something out there. Suicide Squad's rumored to be in trouble. We need to throw some good news out there. It's like they freak. They freak a little bit over there at Warner Brothers, and they just don't stay the course.
Right. Very cool. I got it. I think this is something we're going to be talking about for a little while, especially getting into that Harley Quinn thing, because that was kind of my second story. I was also surprised that they're doing it. I don't know. Hollywood just doesn't surprise me anymore with some of the crap that they pull. I guess that's what I'm trying to convey. They put things out. They duplicate them. You know what I mean? I just don't.
2 months.
Oh, I'm telling you, I agree. They couldn't wait 2 months.
Yeah, just to make sure.
They're just trying to get hype already. They're trying to start the hype for something like that now.
Because of all the bad hype they had coming off Batman vs Superman, and now these rumors floating around that Suicide Squad's in trouble. That's what this is.
Yep, for sure. Cool. What else you got on the slate there, since you stole my second one?
Well, it kind of was all my big old DC news, as I said.
No worries.
The television.
That's right.
We talked about last week how television is still shaking up. And it looks like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is moving to 10 o'clock, which basically they might as well have just said, we're canceling Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
Network is getting out of the comic book business. And I'm okay with it, to be honest. But I guess from an actor standpoint, it may not be good, because it's going to be hard to get name talent on, say, CW and, Sci-Fi and some of these other places that are doing these. They're not going to get the name actor or actress necessarily. They're going to get young actors and actresses that want to make a name for themselves, which could be okay, but it is going to limit some of the big names.
Right. I'm sure you probably read it more so than I did. There was a great article posted by Chloe Bennett from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
And in the article, it discussed how she felt Marvel had abandoned the TV show side of things. And I thought she was spot on. Did you read that? And what did you think of that?
I did. There is some merit to what she said. Of course, it's a very complicated situation. When you're trying to figure out actor schedules that are in movies and actor schedules and television schedules and get everyone on par to do it. Now, I think it could be done. But then the final cherry on top is this in-house bullshit politics that is going on with Ike Perlman, who's the head of Marvel, and pissed off that they kicked him out of, the whole deal for the movies, that they basically said, you don't have anything to do with the movies anymore. So he's a little spiteful, and maybe him and Feige aren't getting along well enough to do the crossovers. And what that hurts is, yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. really needed the Marvel Universe. Netflix, not so much. Netflix is doing its own thing, and I think they'll be just fine without actually having a crossover with the Avengers or any of them.
Right.
But yeah, so I say we're going to lose it on network. We're not going to have anything, Well, Fox is still the only one left. I guess I shouldn't say that. And Gotham is doing okay, and Lucifer did really well. So maybe Fox will be the one last bastion of networking.
Yeah, it's my 2 cents, just something to talk about for down the road when we do a television episode. Lucifer was quite amazing. I actually got into that show. I had a really good time with it. The character's great. They couldn't have picked anybody better. I thought it played off well with the other characters in the show. That's just a quick review. If you get a chance to catch this one, go back and watch these. It's a great little series. I like the way that they play off it.
But what's interesting is all these successful TV shows are DC.
Yep.
Marvel's network shows. I'm not going to count the Netflix because that's a different medium, I believe. That's my thought is that there was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter and the possible Most Wanted one. They're all kicked. So Marvel is not doing well on network television, and DC is. Just something to throw out there.
No, I totally agree. Then, like I said, it lends into the Chloe Bennett article. If you ask me, I think Marvel has gone, at least on the television side, they've gotten cheap. I watched the season finale, which was on the other night. I was not impressed. It's not holding my interest the way it used to. Let's face it, man. When that thing first came out, we were always looking for the Marvel tie-in to the rest of the Marvel universe, and they always, at least that first season, every other episode or two, there was something minor, at least something minor, or a character that we could pick out from comic books past. And that's all gone by the wayside in favor of kind of a strange story with some characters that are not even like C, D, E, or F type comic book characters. They're way down there as far as I understand them to be. So, yeah, for sure. Cool. All right, moving on. What else you got on the news side?
That's it. That's all I had news-wise. I didn't have anything else. That was a major story.
Huge, man.
There's a little bit of X-Men news, but since we're doing an X-Men heavy show, I don't feel like getting minor X-Men rumors.
Right.
They're rumors, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'm gonna voice that again. Sometimes when we do our newscast, we're torn between the problem of it being a major spoiler, like we're gonna get into here in just a moment, and or rumor. And it's hard to talk about and discuss rumor. We can talk about the ideas of it, but getting into rumor just isn't really our thing. So we apologize, but we're trying to bring you as much news that we think is relevant to our genre at the time.
Yeah, actual fact, because we could argue all day about rumor, and tomorrow it turns out it was all garbage.
Exactly. All right. So do you want to kick this off?
Yes.
Go for it. Let's hear the intro.
Sing. So I got
yeah, go ahead. The Star Wars Minute. All right, here's our inaugural attempt at the Star Wars Minute. And what we're about to do here is just kind of, I'm going to cover at least a story or two, again, without trying to do it, spoiler-free and rumor-free as much as possible. We will give you some suggestions on where you can go and check out these articles and make the decision for yourself. But there is, now with a movie coming out just about every year, there's news every week. So the first thing I want to get into is a book that was released recently, which had a very interesting, not only photograph, but a description in it. This book is titled Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, the Official Visual Story Guide. And it has surfaced online, and it's got some amazing photos and actually might be giving away a piece of the story. Now, I'm not going to discuss it, but if you head on over to Screen Rant, we like those guys over there. They got a couple of good articles on this. Check it out. See for yourself. Make your own decision. But I'm telling you right now, if this is true, this is huge, huge news, and a lot of fans are going to be crazy about it. What do you think?
Yeah, and you also forgot there's character descriptions. So some of those other characters we saw in the trailer, there's descriptions for them as well. So that comes into play. It's interesting that Star Wars keeps doing this. You know, someone said this was a leak or a mistake, but it seems like Star Wars keeps doing this with their books. Because it was the same thing for the last one too. That the books come out and the books have some stuff, and it seems to be a trend. Even going back to, I remember the prequels, the books would sometimes spoil something.
I honestly think this is actually a purposefully done thing. And I'm going to say, because of the major spoiler that we're not discussing here, that's definitely grabbing headlines and attention. It was actually trending quite a bit the other day. It took over the hashtag and the Twitter feeds. Yeah. That's huge, and that's what they want. They want to generate buzz. They want to generate the possibility of that particular thing happening. And again, it's got my interest peaked. I'm excited to see what that is. But again, we don't want to spoil it on air here. But definitely check it out. The character descriptions, vehicle descriptions. There's all kinds of little descriptions, and it's not to say that these are definitely in the movie, but chances are, if it's in the book, because they know how us Star Wars fans are, we get very hooked up on the lore and everything. So if they tell us, that's a trivia question down the road, period. It's done. It's set in stone.
But they're tricky. You got to give them credit, because it could be in the movie, but it could be in the movie for a grand total of 5 seconds.
Very true.
You know what I mean?
Very true. That's why we tell people, hey, go over to the guys at Screen Rant, check it out, check out their article, see what we're talking about. Again, it's the official visual story guide. You got to check that out on Star Wars and make up your own mind. All right, next bit of business. The next one is, again, it's kind of back and forth between fact and rumor. You got to make up your own mind. It's about the actor Tom Hardy and whether or not he is or is in Episode 8. What do you think? If he's in Episode 8, what do you think about this move there, Speedy G?
Well, from my understanding, it's kind of like the way Daniel Craig was in it. So it's going to be something where we may not know it's him right away. Right. So it's a little hidden cameo. I think it's kind of cool. I don't know enough about him. Is he a Star Wars fan? Did he wander on set and they said, "Hey, you want to be in the movie?" Or did someone actually call him? I don't know enough about him to know his background, or does he have a connection to this director or something of that nature?
Right, exactly. I'm thinking you're absolutely right. For all we know, he'll be a costume character. I'm not sure that we will see him the way that we did Daniel Craig.
Oh, with his voice, he's got to be his trooper. He's got to be something in the Empire.
I would think. Who knows who or what, but I think little things like that are great. It's just, I would love to find these things out after the fact instead of before the fact. You know what I mean? I'm glad I didn't know about the other stuff in The Force Awakens until after. I did a good job of staying away from some of that stuff early on. Cool. Hey, you know what? You did bring up one other thing about a particular person who might be lending his voice talent. I think you should go ahead and bring that up. I'm kind of having second thoughts.
All right.
Why don't you go ahead and bring that one up?
Okay. Well, I guess I saw there's also a rumor that Frank Oz has recorded some Yoda voice work for the new movie.
Right.
It's already been done. And
that's why I wanted you to bring it up, because it could be voice. It could be rumor. It could be used. It could not be used. So since it is, I think it's safe to kind of bring up. Who knows? Much like trailers, you see trailers all the time. You know what? There's at least 10% of that footage that doesn't get used in the movie, in the actual feature film. So, I'm taking this one with a grain of salt. But there's been some really good Star Wars news, that's for sure.
We forgot one more that's kind of a Star Wars Marvel rumor.
Yeah, this one I'm actually kind of really curious about. You caught this one. I didn't see this one. Go for it.
Yeah. I can't remember his name.
John Boyega.
John Boyega is rumored to be interested in a role in Black Panther. Wouldn't that be sweet?
Wow. I mean, the lineup, we don't want to get off Star Wars topic here, but, he's basically right now this Luke Skywalker of the Star Wars universe, maybe. And for him to drop in and also snag a role in the Marvel universe, especially Black Panther, with a lineup that's shaking up to be ridiculously awesome, that movie would be solidified.
This movie's going to end up being the who's who of young African American actors. I guarantee it, man. And then Ryan Coogler is such a hot director right now. All these guys want to work it. It's a Disney/Marvel property, which everyone wants to be part of. Most people have seen what Chadwick Boseman did already, so you know already what you're getting. So people are just jumping aboard this train, man. It's like, boom.
Dude, I don't blame him. This is probably going to be, again, we've talked about this before. We don't want to get off Star Wars topic necessarily, Star Wars/Marvel. It's the same universe if you used to go to Disneyland. But, yeah, this is probably going to be one of my most forward-looking, Black Panther. Can't wait, man. Can't wait. All right. Well, I think that's what's going to do it for us for right now for our Star Wars Minute. We'll have more Star Wars news and info for you guys next week on our next podcast, of course. It's something we're going to try to keep doing. If you have ideas or thoughts, put them in the comments. We'd be happy to take those into consideration and maybe even keep them on air. That's for sure. All right, buddy. I tell you what, are you ready to get into this? Are you ready to get into 7 + 1 films of the X-Men universe and kind of cover these? What do you think?
As long as I don't have to watch them all again. Because there's a couple that I won't watch.
Oh, man. You know what? There's a couple that I've seen that, no, I won't watch again. But I think there are a few more that I liked more than you did from a movie standpoint. And that's why we're doing this. We're trying to get you hyped up for the X-Men Apocalypse review that we're going to have next. Is it next week? Or is it
I believe so.
God, next week already.
It's out. Be aware, all my American friends. It is out in the UK. They are watching it, and they will post something.
Yeah, watch for spoilers, that's for sure.
All
right, let's get into it. So what we're about to do right now is we're going to take all the movies. We have chosen 7 + 1 extra. We've given that one an asterisk, so a total of 8 movies. We're going to break them down for you, quickly give you a quick recap to refresh your memory about these movies. And we're going to tell you what we thought about those movies and what they did for for the X-Men universe and what we thought about them at the time. Keep in mind, at the time when these movies came out, it's very important that our opinions of, just like anything else in our lives, they do change year after year. But let's get started. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right. I am up first. The first movie we're going to talk about, of course, is X-Men, the movie. Came out in the year 2000. 2 mutants come to a private academy for their kind, whose resident superhero team must oppose a terrorist organization with similar powers. That's a very standard broad utilization. In this movie, we've got our first initial view of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Patrick Stewart as Professor X, Ian McKellen as Magneto, Famke Janssen as Jean Grey, Scott Summers as Cyclops, Halle Berry as Storm, Anna Paquin as Rogue. We had Tyler Mane as Sabretooth, Ray Park, Darth Maul himself as Toad, and of course, Rebecca Romijn Stamos as Mystique. These would kind of be our basics for the start of this universe. I remember seeing this movie and thinking, wow, you know what? A little slow, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. I love the introduction to these characters. Heading into this movie way back when, I wasn't sure how Hugh Jackman, this really big guy, was going to pull off Wolverine, knowing from what I know from the comics is that he's a little guy. He's a tough little guy who can be obnoxious and straightforward. And I just wasn't sure it was going to work. But I have to tell you, when this came out in the year 2000, way back when, I actually quite enjoyed it very much. I believe I saw it several times with family and friends. Speedy G, what's your take on this first X-Men movie?
Yeah, look back at it through the eyes of the year 2000.
Exactly.
And there was nothing like this. This was very unique. It was new. It was fresh. There are things I didn't like about it even then, and of course that I felt were not X-Men, but I was very forgiving back then. And this movie, I loved it for that reason, because it was finally these characters on screen. And I forgave the lack of the costume, like you said, a different looking Hugh Jackman.
Right.
When you think about it, the fact that they landed Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen to play those two roles, the roles that have basically defined the series, which have been Professor X and Magneto, even when Fassbender and McAvoy took them over. These are the two roles that Bryan Singer's vision has been defined by. Whether you agree or disagree about if you like that, that's what he's done. That's when he's at his best, when he writes for these two. And there was a lot to like. There was a few things not to like. I think he had a hard time juggling the big cast, which seems to be something that continues throughout his whole career with the X-Men, but a lot to like.
Right. I think early on, though, I have to say real quickly here, early on, the balancing act, I think that came down to one particular actress, if you remember back then, that being Halle Berry. She was a little difficult, and, we'll talk about that more leading into the second one.
To her credit, though, Storm is a major character, and I constantly, whenever I do a poll on our Twitter or something X-Men related, almost always Storm wins.
Right.
Why there hasn't been a solo Storm movie, I still don't know, because she is so popular, and there should have been more thrown her way. Also, everyone will bring this up because Cyclops has been treated like crap in the X-Men movies. The rumor I'm hearing is finally in this new movie, he's going to finally get his due. But that's a long time. We have to wait 8 movies before the leader of the X-Men was treated like the leader of the X-Men.
Right.
A couple little things that they did was kind of strange is with the villains, they went visually instead of acting chops. You break it down. Romaine Stamos was a model.
Right.
The wrestler doing Sabretooth, he really didn't have lines.
Tailor-made.
And a stuntman as Toad. So from an acting perspective, they didn't really bring anything to the table. The villains didn't bring a lot. If you think back about, lines or anything, it was just they showed up and they fought. And that kind of is a little knock about them being weak. But overall, it was a really good movie. If you break it down, it was a really... Is it in my top 10 of movies? Probably not, but it would have been back then. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, for sure. No, I completely agree with your assessment of that first movie. I got to tell you something I want to bring up, and I'll never forget this. You know what sucked me into this universe right away? And picture, if you will, if you can get this in your head. That opening scene that they put together for the birth of Magneto. Here he is, young Magneto. This is how the movie opens. And it's gut-wrenching, and you feel horrible for the kid. He's a kid in a German, and he's Jewish, and he's in a German internment camp, and they just yanked him away from his parents. And he's begging and screaming and pleading to get back with them. Yeah. And all of a sudden, his powers show. He takes a gate, and he just freaking bends the crap out of it. And from that moment on, I was sucked into the idea of Professor X, and especially Magneto, even with his darker side. You know me, I've said it every time we've been on a podcast. I lean towards that anti-hero kind of guy, that villain who he thinks he's doing the right thing, but he's doing it wrong, but there's a reason. And that scene just really dragged me into that movie.
That was an extremely intense scene.
For sure.
That was a great scene.
Yeah. One of my favorites in the series, I have to tell you.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And we're just starting.
See, that goes back to Singer. The story Singer has decided to tell with the X-Men has been one of kind of this juxtaposition of Xavier and Magneto. He talked about it when he did the first film, and he compared it to Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And that's kind of been his story throughout. It's not that I dislike that story. Me personally, I wanted a story about the X-Men more than I wanted a story about Magneto and Xavier. I wanted a story about Storm, Cyclops, Wolverine, and Jean. But that's just me personally, because that's what I liked out of the comics. I liked them more than their leader, Xavier.
Right.
So
I thought they did a good job of starting that up. And real quick, back to Ray Park. I think even as a stuntman, his Toad was probably the best of the 3 villains that were there. I know that
Sabretooth was horrible.
Sabretooth was kind of corny, a little too grrr.
But he looked like him. That's why. And I remember when they cast him and I saw the pictures, I was on board with how he looked.
Right.
Because it looked like Sabretooth.
Right.
But
I think
that's
they just,
all it brought was look.
Just that's it. Yeah. But Ray Park did a good job. Rebecca Maine Stamos, she did learn a little bit of martial arts, not a lot.
Yeah.
They had a stunt double for her. So again, you know, you're right. You're dead on with that.
Willing to get blue.
And at least she was willing to get naked and blue. Yeah. Keep that in mind. Those prosthetics were back then. They weren't Jennifer Lawrence prosthetics. Those were very little.
Yeah.
Left very little to the imagination. Little boys were having heart attacks all over this country in the year 2000 watching the X-Men. That's for sure. Very cool. All right.
Well,
anything else before?
Yeah, I got some little tidbits about it. Some little facts that people may not know that I think are interesting.
Hit us up.
Iceman is in this movie, so you see him, you know, and he's going to progress and he's become a major character later. But he is introduced in this movie. We are also introduced to Pyro, Jubilee, and Kitty Pryde, but all three of those actors did not return. So they were they had a role, like a very brief role in the school, but they were recast. So we never saw those actors again after that first movie.
Right.
And then the most famous recast, as we were talking about early, and Doug Ray Scott. He was all set to be Wolverine. It was a done deal. He was in the process of filming that second Mission Impossible. And at the time, Tom Cruise's Mission Impossibles were pretty huge. It was a John Woo movie coming out with him. And this could have been his big break.
Right.
And Mission Impossible's filming went longer than they thought it would, and he had to drop out. And Bryan Singer goes and replaces him with this unknown Aussie actor named Hugh Jackman. And the rest is history. How different could that be?
And Doug Ray Scott, for those who don't know, I believe he's currently on Fear the Walking Dead.
Yep.
He played the villain in Mission Impossible 2. He's been on several things. I know you folks, if you're listening, I know you've seen him in something. He was, again, Mission Impossible.
He was a good actor.
Mission Impossible 2, I think, was it 2 or 3? 2.
2 didn't do so well. Woo kind of ended up not being, but there's a lot of iconic scenes. Like I think that's the one when he's rock climbing and he drops the shades. And of course you got doves and all that.
The motorcycle fight. Yeah, that's the whole one. But he was a great villain. I have to tell you, he was a really good villain in that movie. Very awesome. Great facts. Way to go, Speedy G. All right, I tell you what, since you're on a roll, why don't you go ahead and lead us on into the next one, buddy?
The next one was simply just called X2. Very simple. I mean, people call it was X-Men 2, but everyone just calls it X2.
X2.
And most of the posters call it X2. The X-Men band together to find a mutant assassin who has made an attempt on the president's life while the Mutant Academy is attacked by military forces. Boy, these descriptions are really vague. Basically,
thanks.
Nightcrawler tries to assassinate the president, and that military force is led by Stryker. So the new characters introduced, we had the same actors come back as their same characters. More meat for Iceman. They recast Pyro. You have Brian Cox playing Stryker. You have Alan Cummings playing Nightcrawler. And Kelly Hu playing Lady Deathstrike. I think those are the only additions. I may be wrong. I may be missing somebody. But I think that's it. They also recast. They, like I said, Kitty Pryde. And we also had our first Colossus sighting in this movie. Right. So those are basic. And then, like I said, the original actors that were from the first movie. Well,
cool. I actually liked X2 better than I liked the first one.
Yes.
A lot of that had to do with the Nightcrawler character. I just knew the basics on Nightcrawler, like a lot of things. So to see him in action and to hear that bamf, and that whole opening scene when he does try to assassinate, and you find out later why he does try to assassinate the president, him getting through every security guard, them not being able to stop him whatsoever, that was an amazing, again, another opening scene that really sucked me in. And I thought the interaction, now that they recast these characters, even though that was a drag, they recast these characters that had at least a little bit of something to offer. And we also got our first look into the Wolverine and Stryker relationship. That's why I guess I found a lot more intrigue in this one, and I really liked it. I think the Jean Grey portion of this film kind of threw me off a little bit. If you remember back as to what happened to her, I don't want to get into that one too much. I got a little confused, but maybe you could shed some light on that in your description.
Yeah.
But I did like it better than I liked the first one. Again, for its time, for our time. What year did that one come out, Speedy G?
Gosh, was it 4 years later? Maybe 2004. Let me look.
I believe it's 4 years later.
2003.
Wow, 3 years later. But still, for its time, again, it mirrored what it had accomplished earlier. I had, to me, a slightly better story, at least plot line and lead into the Nightcrawler character. After that, I'm not quite sure. I know that I kind of got off a little bit.
Nightcrawler. The story was good, like you said, and it was interesting that Magneto kind of teamed with them and then he double-crossed them. That becomes a theme continually. That was interesting. Wolverine, he flexed a little more in this. That was another reason I like this movie. When they attack the school and Wolverine has to flex and kind of take out those, the unknown mask soldiers, which are great for this kind of movies because he can go brutal on them. And he did. He went much more brutal. And it gave us some more of what the first X-Men movie didn't give us. He was almost a complaint that he was a little too soft in that first X-Men movie. In this movie, he gave us about as brutal as you're going to get in a PG-13 movie.
I think you're absolutely right. Real quick, just to back you up and let you finish your thought. You're absolutely right. He sliced and diced his way through all those military soldiers, and then even a few more later on. That was pretty brutal.
So that I liked. The story was much better. We had some development and some characters. Storm finally got some more action because she had that interesting storyline with Nightcrawler. We start seeing the emergence of Iceman and Pyro and Rogue actually going out in the field. Iceman was still kind of like, but when I look back at it and as I thought about it, one of the biggest reasons I don't think they could do Iceman back then. That was probably part of the problem. We really didn't get a good view of Iceman until Days of Future Past, when the effects were at the level that you could do Iceman. Think about it. He's iced and he's like building bridges and surfing all over the place. That's not a cheap, easy thing to do. No,
so, I would agree with you. What did he do? He made a rose in this movie. He chilled Wolverine's beer, which I thought was hilarious. That was a good moment.
So they did what they could do, considering.
Right, but I would agree.
Lady Deathstrike was a little bit. That would be my only knock on this movie, to be honest. I didn't like the way they did her with the claws, and she kind of didn't talk. I don't know. I think they could have done more with her. But other than that, it was a good movie.
Can you speak to the Jean Grey portion of this film and how it ended?
They were building up the Phoenix, and that was a great idea. And the way it ended to build up the Phoenix, it gave me a lot of excitement for number 3 as well.
Right.
But it was an unfulfilled promise. When we get into number 3, we'll get into it. Number 3 was just a disaster, and they just never fulfilled that promise of what they set up for us at the end of 2. 2 was great. 2 is of those original X-Men movies, 2 is my favorite. It's not my favorite X-Men movie, but it's definitely of those original 3, and for their time, it's probably the best. And it's the one that I don't really hate Singer for.
Nope, totally agree with you. Right on board. As I said, it's my favorite, better than the first. But yeah, again, I didn't. I thought something cool was going to happen, and we'll talk about that next here with the whole Phoenix thing. And for sure. Yeah. All right. Any other thing? Go ahead. What are some thoughts
things again? They introduced another Kitty Pryde, and a Jubilee, and this second Kitty Pryde doesn't make it to the third movie. So we're on our second Kitty Pryde actress, and they're going to recast her again in the third movie. They also had another actor play Dr. McCoy, the Beast, who doesn't make it to the third movie.
Well, he was.
Okay, I feel like.
Let's be clear though. The Dr. McCoy was he was on screen on a TV on screen for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, but I'm going to go to that seems to be a theme once we get into the newer movies. There doesn't seem to be a lot of thought and planning put into these movies. Like this would have never happened in a Marvel movie. Do you understand what I mean? They would think, okay, there is a possibility that we are going to use this character later. So let's cast him and this is the character, this is the actor we're going to use into the future. Okay. The only time they kind of done the thing has been with Tony's dad. They've had two different actors do Tony's dad, but pretty much they keep the same actor or actress all the way through.
They try to hold it because I mean it's a memory thing. You know what I mean? I like when they do that. I harken back to another movie. I remember they switched after the first Back to the Future. They switched his girlfriend on me for the second one and the third one. I was like, what the hell? It doesn't even look right. So yeah, I definitely get why they would do that. It's a shame that they don't do that, but luckily, like I said, if you didn't pay attention, you didn't know that was that was McCoy up on the screen. So definitely cool. Any facts or things about this one we need to know?
That was really the only thing.
That was the only one, right?
They say when Mystique's breaking into that computer, you see Remy LeBeau, and that's kind of the first like Easter egg that the Gambit does exist in this world. So that was kind of really the only Easter egg, I guess, that they gave us.
Yeah, I think that was a minor one for sure. All right, cool. You ready to move on to the next one?
Yes.
All right, let's see here. I have pulled up the wrong one. Okay, we are on X-Men Last Stand?
No, X-Men, yeah, Last Stand.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just wanted to be very curious here. I was one ahead, so pardon me here. All right. Anyway, here we go. X-Men Last Stand. Let me see if I can read this very short. I don't know what happened to IMDb and their little descriptions here, man. I got to tell you. All right, X-Men Last Stand. This movie was released in 2006, so again, 3 years later. When a cure is found to treat mutants, lines are drawn amongst the X-Men, led by Professor X, Charles Xavier, and the Brotherhood, a band of powerful mutants organized under Xavier's former ally, Magneto. We've got all the regular cast of characters returning again for this one. There are some new. There's Vinnie Jones as Juggernaut. Peter Rasmussen plays Colossus in this. Warren Worthington III plays Angel.
No, that's the character's name.
Or excuse me, Ben Foster. Hello.
Yeah.
Ben Foster plays Angel. And basically, this is a culmination and just kind of a mess of a movie. You know, I think actors or actresses maybe wanted out of this franchise, and boy, did they make it happen. Other than Kelsey Grammer being introduced as Beast here officially, who was probably the one bright spot in this movie, I don't have a lot of good things to say. I didn't completely enjoy this movie. I thought it was a mess. That's quickly all I've got to say about it. What did you think, Stevie G?
Another one is Ellen Page coming in as Kitty Pryde. They finally settled on a Kitty Pryde and gave it a real actress.
Yeah.
This is almost the worst X-Men movie ever. Almost. There's actually one I dislike more, but this movie is an absolute mess. And part of it was Singer leaving. Okay, Singer left to go do his mediocre Superman movie, and I don't know if maybe some actors wanted out, and the story just went off the rails. You're right. They just kill Cyclops. Why? I'm not quite sure. And then they kill Professor X. Not quite sure. And then Rogue kind of disappears to get a cure, but nothing really explained. The Phoenix story is rushed and makes no sense. Magneto is completely and totally out of character. He's basically turning on his own kind, something Magneto would never do. Till the bitter end, Magneto would defend mutants. That's the one consistent, no matter what, through this entire system, or through these entire movies and through the comics. That's not Magneto. So that's a mess. Gosh, there's just so much mess. And it's like, this is where I think X-Men went off the rails for me, and I've never come back to it. Because I feel like they said, we know the fans want these things, so we're going to give them to them, but then we're going to give it to them all fucked up because we don't care. And by that, I mean, okay, I'm excited we got Beast. Ellen Page she's a great actress, and she's gonna play Kitty Pryde. Awesome. We're gonna get Angel. You know, he's one of my favorite X-Men. I was so stoked. But then Juggernaut, then they weren't them. It's like almost like, but look, we gave them to you. And it's like, you look at it, it's like a knockoff. Like someone bought you a knockoff teddy bear. Like you wanted a Care Bear, and they gave you something from the swap meet, and you're looking at it like something's not right. You know, and that's how I felt with that movie. And Beast was good. Don't get me wrong. He's probably the best. And Ellen Page does have a good scene when she's running from Juggernaut and she's phasing through the walls. It was a pretty cool scene. But it's a scene here and there. And even Wolverine just was not very good. Oh,
no, there were only moments in this movie for me, man. And it was disappointing. I was actually excited to see what they were going to do with the Phoenix thing. And you know what's even stranger? That there's a storyline when we lose Xavier in this movie, and it's because of the Phoenix. Mm-hmm. Magneto actually says, "What have I done?" Right? Mm-hmm. But yet he's right there in the front lines leading the charge still, as if he's, for somebody who's supposed to be as brilliant as he is. Like when you said out of character, that's exactly right. Yeah. First, he realizes he's made a mistake, but then he embraces the mistake. He ain't that mad. He's not that mad. He's mad with purpose. That was without purpose and without cause. And so that really killed it for me. The love story between Wolverine and Jean, I always wanted to like it. At least I felt a little bit about it. I mean, I had some feelings about it, especially towards the end, how the movie ended. And I thought they did a good job of that. But Beast was probably the best thing about it, that movie, and that was about it. It still wasn't enough for my movie ticket.
It was close. And you don't have Cyclops. Part of the interesting about that Jean Grey Wolverine story is it's a triangle. You know,
right?
You have to have Cyclops there to really work, because it's a love triangle. It's not just her and Wolverine is the story. It's her and Cyclops, and then this rivalry between these two essence leaders of the team that are in love with this woman, and she kind of likes them both. So she's in the middle too. And to take the other male out of it, you don't have the triangle, and it's just kind of So and we didn't get into this in the first one. I understand why they went with Rogue instead of Kitty, because it should be Kitty that was in the very first movie and not Rogue, as a comic book fan, because Rogue kind of comes later. But I understand why they went with her. It's an interesting story. It's a much more interesting story because the fact that she can't touch anyone, she can't have contact, and what she's going through. But they started that interesting story, and then they just abandoned it, kind of. You know what I mean? They just kind of never really fulfilled it. Again, that's what I mean. It's like, we're going to give you all this great stuff, but we're really not going to give you all this great stuff. And that becomes a trend for me as these movies go forward, when I'm going to raise my complaints. It's like, you're going to give me this character, I'm so excited, but then they're only on screen for like 2 minutes, and they really get no development, and they're gone from the next movies, and you just kind of wasted them.
Right.
So it's a fun.
No, I think we can agree that this one's, like I said, you said it's one of your worst.
I think it's not the worst, but
it's my worst. It's my worst. It would be on my list. It would be the worst X-Men movie. Yeah. Go ahead. What were you going to say, buddy?
I was going to say that and the Rebecca Romaine, the Mystique thing, and especially with the movies we've seen, that she turns human and he just turns his back on her. Again, he abandoned her, and which she would never do that to her.
Which we see now.
And then now that we've seen the new movies and we know that the relationship goes back that far, it's an aberration. You just want to take that, like I said, other than Kelsey Grammer being a pretty cool beast, and then it did introduce Ellen Page to us, who does a really good job in Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
You just want to take this movie and chuck it. The Angel was a huge disappointment. As an Angel fan, I was so pissed. That was a huge disappointment.
I was excited to see him, and we didn't really.
Because I've been talking about him forever. Angel, I'm so excited, and then he become Archangel, and I just walked out of there like, that was suck.
Yeah, you said
that was suck.
So a little background in all of our conversations that Speedy G and I have all the time. there are certain characters that he really loves, and that he kind of really brings to the forefront. If I don't know the depths that Speedy G does, and Angel is probably a character that we talked about for like a week before this came out, because you were so hyped, and the trailers made him look really cool, and I was like, you know me, I'm cool. He's got wings. He can fly. What's his and yeah. I think that what you said it best.
He's an original X-Men. I mean, it was great to see an original get back put into the mix, and just all those things. And it was just shit.
It was bad. Bad. I think we're about ready to move on. But
yeah,
again, that was definitely my worst X-Men movie. Cool. What you got next for us there, Speedy G? What's next on the list?
The next one is 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine, starring Hugh Jackman in his own solo movie. We also have Liev Schreiber, Ryan Reynolds, will.i.am. Gosh, who was playing Stryker? But we have a new Stryker. Oh, Danny Hudson's playing Stryker.
Right.
Dominic Montague is in this movie. Taylor Kitsch as Remy LeBeau as
Remy LeBeau.
Gambit. Yeah. And yeah, this movie is the big piece of shit. This is the movie that's at the bottom, without a doubt for me. But go ahead and speak on it.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. Let me give you my take on this. This is why I still think it beats the other one. Okay. And again, this is from a movie standpoint of the year. What was it? What year were we in this one?
2000 and did I say 8 or 9?
8. I think it was 9. Shooting for 9. Come on, 9. Anyway, so first thing for me, it introduced my favorite X-Men, which was Remy LeBeau.
Yes.
And I think Taylor Kitsch, he did a great job of portraying Remy LeBeau. As a matter of fact, I'm telling you right now, please, somebody just shove Channing Tatum aside, put him in another freaking Magic Mike movie or some shit like that, and let's get Taylor Kitsch back for Remy LeBeau for Gambit, if that ever actually happens. Yeah. So that was the first thing. I also want to say, from a movie standpoint, the way this movie started was great. I don't know how it follows as far as comic book lore, as far as Wolverine and his I mean, they made him out his brother, his Sabretooth, as a brother back in, we're talking pre-Civil War days. It was actually quite awesome. The whole, again, another great opening for a movie sequence.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that.
Again, so the story started well. The middle was pretty good. This is when we get into, Wolverine running into the Blob, who I thought was awesome too. Also, will.i.am, I don't know if that was just a thing to do. His character was okay. Liev Schreiber as Sabretooth, I got to tell you, I thought he was pretty badass.
Yes, okay? I'd like to see him come back in the new Wolverine movie.
Me too.
That was one of the highlights of this movie. Despite the crappy-ass script and he was a very good he didn't look necessarily like Sabretooth to me, because Sabretooth has the longer hair, but he was Sabretooth. He had the personality of Sabretooth. I
agree with you, but he seemed more Logan's brother, and that's what I liked. And so follow me here. So now we're building, and we got this great thing, and then it went off the rails. Then we get this retarded Deadpool, and then the movie lost me. But it still had enough that I thought it was still better than the last piece of crap movie we just talked
where
about.
I disagree with you? The last piece of crap lost its director. And I got to consider part of that. Is it losing its director out ahead? This guy had its director all the way through. And this is what he offered us. This was his vision. His vision was this mess. And it was a mess. It was all over the place. I mean, from the crazy throwing in, was that Emma Frost or not Emma Frost?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Was his wife alive or not alive?
Right.
That weird little cameo at the end for Professor Xavier, just some weird stuff. They fight on the top of that, nuclear reactor, and then let's sew Deadpool's mouth shut. Let's cast Ryan Reynolds, who even at that time was a funny man. Let's cast him, and let's sew his fucking mouth shut. that movie was just a disaster. And I don't know
That
how Hugh
movie
Jackman came back after that.
Right. That movie was the reason Deadpool was almost never made.
Yeah.
Okay, and I remember that distinctly. But I have to, again, you could see in the opening scene before they made him Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds as, the Deadpool character before his transformation was great.
Yeah.
I thought it was good, and the swords and the blocking bullets. Again, once they left to go to that to go to 3 Mile Island where all the other mutants were, that's when the movie took a dump.
Yeah.
Other than that, I thought it was building okay.
Then another Cyclops. So.
Oh yeah, and then another baby kid Cyclops. And was that a Quicksilver or not a Quicksilver? Was that thing a bee? I don't know what that thing was buzzing around in that cage. Mm-hmm. I still don't know to this day. But you're right. I mean, don't. I'm just saying that this literally was right down the middle. This movie was pretty solid. It was good until they left.
I hated it more because if we were going to go back to the third X-Men movie,
go ahead.
Beast stands out to me even more so than Gambit and Liv Schreiber's Sabretooth. I think Beast really was that good. And I think Kelsey Grammer really nailed the spirit of a grown man Beast. I also like the young version that we get in this new version of X-Men that's happening right now. But as the wise young, he was a great, foil for Wolverine. They were so different, yet you could see them being friends. I just really liked Kelsey Grammer as Beast. And despite all the other crap that went on in that movie, it saves it for me. Like, if I could just watch those Beast scenes, I would, and just not watch the rest of the movie.
Gotcha. All right. So, we got a half and half here. I still think it's a poor movie, but I did like the start of it. It's not at my bottom, but it's right at the next one. You're calling it the bottom.
That's my bottom.
This is where now. So between the last one, before we get into the next one, between the last X-Men, Last Stand, and this X-Men Wolverine Origins, I think you and I were both starting to really wonder about this franchise ever recovering from any of this stuff. And I don't think we were the only ones either.
No, and at this point, we're getting new movies. We're getting Dark Knight. We are getting Marvel start their thing. Spider-Man has already been going out for a while. Raimi's doing his thing. So we're having other options, and we're starting to see that, okay, what you guys are doing isn't working, and you're not changing, you're not growing, and you're just giving us crap. And we have other options now. So we are less forgiving.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure both of those were pretty big bombs at the box office.
Yeah.
I think they had good opening weekends and just tanked from there.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. All right, what are we on next there, Speedy G33? What am I doing next? Are we on X-Men First Class?
Yes, we are.
Awesome. X-Men First Class. I have my list back up and proper. So let me get into the amazing description by IMDb. It used to be so detailed, man. I know we're going to keep talking about this. Okay, so it's the return of the X-Men. X-Men First Class. This came out in 2011. In 1962, the United States government enlists the help of mutants with superhuman abilities to stop a malicious dictator who is determined to start World War III. All right, so we've got a new cast of characters, so I've got some names to sit here and talk about here real quickly. James McAvoy. McAvoy has taken over the role of the of Charles Xavier in this movie. And actually, there was even a younger version, but he's technically 24 years old. Michael Fassbender is now Eric Lencher, aka Magneto. Bill Milner is a young Eric, a young Magneto himself. Kevin Bacon plays the bad guy here.
Yeah.
As Sebastian Shaw, and I thought he actually did a pretty good job.
I think he did too.
He did, definitely. We're introduced to Rose Byrne character, Maura McTaggart. Also, Jennifer Lawrence. This is her first appearance as Raven / Mystique. Also, we need to get into, let's see. We also had another cast of characters, but then we lost all these guys too. Zoe Kravitz played Angel Salvador. January Jones played Emma Frost. And then we get introduced to Nicholas Hoult, who plays the young Hank / Beast.
Yes.
Jason Fleming actually plays Azazel. One of my favorite characters in this movie, actually, because I kind of like that kind of thing. And then there's Alex Gonzalez. He plays Riptide.
Lucas Till is Alex Summers. That was kind of
That's
cool.
the one I wanted to get to. Yeah.
The other Summers brother get some love.
So basically, what we're getting here is a reboot of our X-Men heroes, and kind of seeing where they're kind of coming from, where they've been, and where they've grown from.
It's set in the 60s.
It's definitely set in the 60s,
which is when the X-Men were created. Well, not when they supposedly were in comic books were appearing onto the scene. Was in the 60s.
My quick take on it, I actually love this rebirth of the movies. I enjoyed the character interaction. There's a great cameo here. We'll get into it in just a minute. We'll spoil that after we talk about it in a minute. I thought these two pick up the mantle very nicely, and actually almost even better at times. The story was good. They combined it with the Cuban Missile Crisis. I'm not sure about how you feel about that part of it. But I did like all the characters that were brought forth in this one. And I was excited to see the rebirth, and I really did enjoy this movie. It got me back on board to the X-Men movies. How about you, Speedy G?
This is my favorite. It's hands down my favorite. And it's very interesting that this isn't Bryan Singer's. And I know he had something to do with it in the early part of it, and he passed it down to Vaughn. But Vaughn gave me something different. And, you know, I know we get in arguments sometimes, and other people tell me, you know, you're just too stuck on comics, okay? Well, here's my rebuttal to that. This is nothing like the original X-Men team. Nothing. Other than Beast, none of these guys are the original X-Men. None of these guys were the guys that should have been starting this team. But you know what? I love it because it captures the spirit of the X-Men, how he finds them, how he recruits them, the relationship between Magneto and Xavier before they kind of go their separate ways. The young Raven was very interesting. I'm not talking about the Jennifer Lawrence Raven. I'm talking about the little girl. She did a really good job when he catches her stealing food and everything. That really got me excited about Raven again. Just everything about it. It was a good movie. I liked the story enough. They wore the costumes, man. Yeah. Finally, they wore the costumes.
Actual colors.
There's just a lot to like about that movie, and they had some great characters, which unfortunately, again, what I was talking about, you give me this little bit and then you take away. Zoe Kravitz could have been somebody, even though she's not a major character in the actual comics. She's a great actress. She looks great. She could have continued. They should have not gotten rid of her the way they got rid of her. But again, this is the beginning of the Jennifer Lawrence push to the forefront of this series. And this is not, I'm not hating on Jennifer Lawrence. I just don't feel she was ever right for that role. It's just a personal opinion.
Right. I actually didn't mind her in this movie at all. I thought she was a great introduction, and I thought that if they would have kept her where she should have been, unfortunately, her character is a secondary. You know, she shouldn't have been up front like they're doing now. But I liked this initial Jennifer Lawrence introduction. I thought she did a really good job. Again, I love this movie too. I don't know if it's my favorite. I still like, you know, some of the earlier stuff. But this definitely reinvigorated my thoughts into this. And let's go back to a quick spoiler.
The possibilities made me excited.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So the two of them team up and they go out and they try to find others like them, using Xavier's capabilities. Him and Magneto together, they're friends at this point. And they're off searching, and they come across a guy who's just really rude. And so, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie, which you should have by now, it turns out to be a great little cameo by Wolverine, Hugh Jackman, who basically tells them to fuck off. So that was a great moment in the film. It kept the levity by making us smile. And let's get back to Kevin Bacon real quick. You know, when I heard about this casting, that was my really big concern. Let's face it, Kevin Bacon, you know, Footloose and a bunch of other stuff. But definitely, he actually shined. I actually didn't mind him too much. I thought he did a pretty good job. What did you think of Kevin Bacon's character?
I liked him. I thought he did the role. I mean, yeah, he was a little goofy and he was a little over the top, but it fit this movie, if you ask me. It really did fit the kind of comic bookiness that this one had. This one really did have kind of a comic booky feel. And he was perfect for it. And the villains in general were really good other than Emma Frost. I did not like Emma Frost.
Right.
And I'm a fan of hers in the comics. And I just felt that they turned her into a sex object in this. Now, sex is part of Emma Frost's thing. She dresses scantily. She is not ashamed of her body, and she shows it. I mean, other X-Men make jokes. Other heroes in general make jokes about shit Emma wears. Okay? But that's just part of who she is. She's also very smart. She's a leader. She's cunning. She's kind of a bitch. And I didn't get that. It just kind of became this, okay, January Jones is pretty and she's going to seduce people. And I don't know. That was really my only complaint about that movie.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you there. I also lend to the theory, though, too, that consider this was the 60s, the beginning of flower power, freedom, and all that other fun stuff. I kind of see why they might have thrown it in there, but I would agree to you. You know,
well,
I'm just trying to come from the other
she's
side.
She's like a high-powered, she comes from a very wealthy family, but she breaks off on her own.
Yeah, I think the difference here, and maybe what you're looking for, is I think in the comic book she's probably more confident about what she's doing, whereas here it was more of a means to a purpose.
She is like the mirror, the yin and yang to Jean Grey.
Right.
Okay, their powers are very similar. And Jean is the good girl who does the right thing kind of thing. And Emma's the one who's not above reading your mind when she's not supposed to, and manipulating that for her own gain and stuff. She's much more ruthless.
Right.
But she's brilliant. She's smart. She's brilliant. She's powerful. She's not just a sex object. She understands she can use sex to get what she wants.
You're right. You're right. The only time she seemed like a strong character is when she was dealing with after she got caught.
Yeah.
And she kind of just let them know, hey, you just need to tell me what you need. Straight out.
Yeah.
Very cool. So yeah, definitely. I think we both enjoyed the reboot. You're calling it your favorite. Yes. I liked it a lot. I'm not sure I'm calling it my favorite just yet, but it was awesome and really cool. Should we move on to the next, or do you have any facts or anything for this one before we go?
Yes. No. I don't know you.
Yes, no.
No, so we'll move on to the next. The next one is The Wolverine. It came out in 2013. When Wolverine is summoned to Japan by an old acquaintance, he is embroiled in a conflict that forces him to confront his own demons. Obviously, this is a Hugh Jackman-led film. And we have Will Yun Lee, Tamo Okamoto as Maiko, and we have let's see, I'm looking for some specifics.
This is awesome. Come on, crank them out.
All Asian actors.
Mariko. It's Mariko.
Mariko. I'm not good with my Asian. What was the other young? Oh, Rila Fukushima as Yuko or Yukio. Yukio. And some other names I cannot pronounce. Ken Yamura's in it. Let's see. Yeah, there's a lot of great actors, Asian actors, that I unfortunately do not know them, but I know their face. You know what I mean? Like I've seen them in other things. What did you think of Wolverine?
Wolverine actually is, I thought it was great. I actually liked this movie. I did see it a couple times. I thought it was very entertaining. I have, for those who don't know, Speedy G knows me very well. I do have a fascination with the Japanese culture. So that played some part in this, even though it wasn't just being there, his haircut even being a little bit different. And the fact that in this movie, we find that they do find a weakness and they exploit it. He does not have his power for regeneration for a little while. And it kind of remains to be seen. I think the story does fall a little flat. It isn't an amazing movie by far. And some things happen kind of conveniently to get them to the final point. but I actually thought that this was a really good Wolverine movie, much better obviously than X-Men or Wolverine Origins. And I enjoyed this one quite a bit. What about you, Speedy G?
This movie pisses me off because it could have been good.
Right.
The first part of this movie is so grounded in reality. I would even compare the first part of this movie to the type of movie that Winter Soldier is. It was, like you said, it was immersed in the Japanese. He's fighting ninja. He's fighting other martial artists. He's not really fighting powered people. Okay? So it's a really interesting, grounded story. And then we get a giant silver robot and some chick that spits poison. And it just kind of fell off. And it didn't work for me. And I like the Silver Samurai, but I don't like the way they did the Silver Samurai.
Right.
If they would have just done a samurai with armor, with the, but he was a normal sized man samurai, I would have preferred that. If he had to fight, like we were teased, if he had to fight all those ninjas, but instead he just gets shot full of arrows and falls down, that would have been amazing. To me, that was Wolverine. To just see like Wolverine just go Wolverine on all these ninjas. I wanted to see him fight the Hand. And like I said, the first part of the movie was pretty good. And it was going somewhere, and then it just didn't pay off. And that's why this movie pisses me off. I don't hate this movie, but it could have been good, unfortunately. I really think this movie could have been good.
I liked it. I can't lie. I thought it was okay. Not great. Again, not great. Mm-hmm. But I enjoyed it. I think that's another one I saw a couple of times with just friends. I didn't go crazy.
Have you seen the unrated cut?
I have not.
You need to see the unrated cut. Now, the ending still sucks. It's not going to save the ending. Okay, you're still going to be left. But some of those fight scenes with the ninjas are much better. There is just the action is a little more brutal. There's some more blood, like when he attacks. There's some blood splatters. He drops some F-bombs. Why I think you should see it is I think you'll kind of get an idea what they think. I think they want to do with this next rated R.
Right.
Wolverine that they want to do. And you'll see like, okay, I could see what they want to do. I could see where they're going. But yeah, if you can get a hold of that unrated cut, it's really good. Again, until we get to the end, and the end just still sucks. There's not much you can do about the end. So.
Cool. Very cool. All right, so we're half and half here. One thumb up, one thumb down. It's getting interesting. I'm kind of liking it. All right. Well, back up again. I think it's my turn now for X-Men Days of Future Past, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. We're getting closer to the most current here, obviously. X-Men Days of Future Past came out in 2014. And I will read you, just to give you a quick recap, the amazing IMDb description, which says the X-Men send Wolverine to the past in a desperate effort to change history and prevent an event that results in their doom for both humans and mutants. We've got the usual suspects back in here as far as McAvoy, Jackman, Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence. But we've also got some of the old cast back in. Halle Berry as Storm. Anna Paquin is Rogue. I'm not even sure she made this cut.
No, she's only made her cut.
But she does get a credit. Also, Ellen Page. Now we've got Peter Dinklage as Boulevard Trask, Dr. Boulevard Trask. Sean Ashmore is back as Iceman. We've got a couple of new characters introduced, which unfortunately don't have a lot of screen time. Omar Sy is Bishop. We're introduced for the first time to Evan Peters, who plays Quicksilver. We also get Josh Hellman, who plays the young Stryker. And let's see, we also get Bing Fan, who plays Blink, excuse me. Another great new mutant added to the cast that we don't unfortunately get too much of. We've also got Evan Jolkit as a new Toad, Lucas Till, Havoc. James Marsden is Scott Summers. And Jean Grey, they have cameo roles in this thing. The list goes on. And we've also got somebody who plays President Nixon, Mark Camacho. I had to shoot that out there. let's get into this movie. So X-Men Days of Future Past, the most recent X-Men movie, technically. And again, I enjoyed this film much more than I think my friend and cohort Speedy G33 did.
Yeah, this movie didn't hit for me, and I hear a lot from people that this is the greatest X-Men movie ever.
I wouldn't call it greatest.
No, I hear it a lot. I mean, I hear it a lot. I don't know why it didn't work for me. I think, again, it's some of those unfulfilled promises that characters are on the screen, but they don't really get anything to do. Right. And they're here with us and they're gone. You know, like, okay, so Blink came and went. So did Bishop, and so did all these characters. And they're not part of this new X-Men universe that we're getting in Apocalypse. They just came and they're gone. It's like, that's what I mean. He like uses them like a match, and then he's done with them, and he doesn't really expound on them, and he just goes back to the well with Magneto and Professor X and Wolverine, and now Mystique. I don't know. It didn't work for me. I don't know how to explain it, but I didn't enjoy it. And I think this is where I kind of was decided I'm done with Bryan Singer's vision of the X-Men. And I know that X-Men fans are going to hate me for that, but I just don't like his X-Men vision. And I've been waiting for him to kind of change with the times and give me something that's, you know, instead of giving me what he gave me 10 years ago, give me what the X-Men are now. And he doesn't seem to evolve. He still gives me the same thing. And I'm tired of what he gave me. You know?
Okay, on my end, I actually quite enjoyed this movie, just to give you another point of view. But I have to admit, my Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique started right here. It started to wane. I was tired of seeing her at the forefront where I really don't think she needs to be or isn't part of her character as far as I understand her to be. And I started to really get to see that in what you were telling me. I did like the interaction and the fact that there was some time travel that I didn't actually mind. I thought that would be a big problem. Cool. Yeah, I thought it would be a big issue for me, and I actually was able to get around it. I was actually to believe in it. But again, once we got to the Jennifer Lawrence stuff, I actually got tired of seeing her in the role of Mystique because they pushed her way out in front. I mean, way out in front where, you know, they made her a key factor in all this. They turned her from your typical like side character, sidekick person is how I kind of see her, right? I mean,
no. But she's a villain. She's not an X-Men. She's a villain.
But she didn't seem very villainous in this thing.
I know, because she does. They have her like an X-Men, and they have her in this relationship with Magneto and with Xavier, where she's a villain. She's a straight up villain. The team she leads are not good guys. She doesn't play a good guy.
Right.
And they kind of, I don't know, they twisted her around because she's a star and they need her to be the love triangle or quadruple or square, because you throw Beast in there too. You know, she has this love thing with Beast. She's like in love with everybody. It's like, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, the best way I try to describe it to you is like, you know, I didn't hate Spider-Man 2 is one of my favorite movies, and I actually liked Garfield's in Spider-Man, but this last month I saw Spider-Man for the first time on screen, and I was like, that's fucking Spider-Man. That moment still hasn't happened for me in a Bryan Singer movie where I've said, that's Wolverine.
Right.
That's Jean Grey. That's Cyclops. That's okay. Maybe it'll happen in Apocalypse, but it hasn't happened yet. And I guess after this many movies, what is this, movie number 7? I'm tired of waiting for them to give me my characters. I want my characters. So maybe the movie's better than I'm willing to give it credit for, and I've just hit that fatigue wall with it and said, you're not going to give me what I want. And I'm interested.
Okay, this is going to be really hard. Okay, and we haven't discussed this prior, so this is kind of off the cuff. Briefly, can you describe in the best way you can kind of what you're looking for as the cat cruises around behind you, which look awesome? But can you describe kind of what you'd like to see more of? Is there a way to bring that to the forefront here?
This family that the X-Men are, they are all rejects and cast-offs. Their essence they're almost like orphans themselves. You know, that what you got in Civil War, how these characters cared about each other. I don't get that in X-Men. I don't get that moment that you get when Black Widow goes to the funeral and tells Cap, I'm just here to make sure you're not alone. You know what I mean? I don't get that passion that Tony has when Rhodey gets hurt. I'm not seeing any of that. And I guess that's what I'm looking for is this. The X-Men are so close with each other. They fight with each other like siblings.
Right.
But somebody messes with them, they're boom. You know what I mean?
Right. And so you're saying that's what's missing from the X-Men franchise.
I think it really is. That magic, that kind of, in the school, that these are kids out of school. That part is missing too. There's no really about these kids learning how to be X-Men. They learn how to deal with their mutant powers. I just can't. It's hard for me to explain it because we'd have to break down every character. Why this?
No. I just wanted to see if you could bring together just a generalization. I think you're doing a good job. Keep it up.
I just think that he doesn't see them. He doesn't see their spirit. He's telling a different story. And it doesn't surprise me that he continues to go back to Magneto and Professor X because that seems to be the only ones he gets. He hasn't written a female character well at all in this whole series.
Right.
At all. And there's so many female X-Men. So until he learns how to write them well, that's going to always be a knock as well.
Yeah, I would agree.
I would
agree with that. No, that's the best way you can put it, man. I don't blame you. That was a hard, difficult question there on the fly. How to bring that to the forefront. I'm not sure we're going to get what we want in the next movie to come out, or at least what you would like to see.
I'm hopefully. I always am hopeful. He recast. We have these young X-Men that look good, these young actors. I mean, I'm really excited with the young lady playing Storm. I'm excited with the guy playing Nightcrawler and Cyclops. So there's some things there that give me hope.
That's for sure.
Who knows?
Definitely agree. Cool. All right. So we've covered the 7 X-Men movies of Days of Future Past or Movies Past. But there's one more that we would like to bring to the forefront. Speedy G, go for it.
Yes, I would like to throw Deadpool in this mix.
Tell us why.
It is so different, yet it is in this universe. And there's no mistaking that it's in this universe because he's being recruited by the X-Men. He goes to the mansion. Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead at the end. They actually get in the same aircraft that the X-Men use to go get him. So we are in this universe in essence. So I look at it as an X-Men movie. At the same time, I look at it and I wonder, could Bryan Singer, the way he tells movies, mesh with this Deadpool movie? And I say no.
No.
Not at all. But again, that's where I'm going to say that's the knock on Singer is, okay, Ant-Man's a big old goof fest, okay? Yet he still can come into the Russo's movie. And the Russos can use him and have you care about him, and he can still be his goofy self. Singer should be able to take Deadpool and bring him into his movie. And, Deadpool can get serious enough. He's not going to get serious to where he's going to get like Wolverine serious. But when he's in a fight, he's going to be like, okay, he's going to crack some jokes, but he's going to be like, I'm going to kill some fuckers, because Deadpool's also violent. And I don't know. I just want more. I like the Colossus. Could that Colossus work with Singer? Exactly. You know what I mean? Could you have seen him in Apocalypse? The Colossus we got. Could Negasonic Warhead be in Apocalypse?
Yes.
Do you think so? Do you think with that personality?
I don't know. I don't know. But she's still learning. Keep that in mind. She was still learning.
True.
I don't know. I kind of like. I
And
kind of
if
liked
you
it.
want to know kind of again what you asked me before, I want a little more of what's going on in Deadpool.
Right.
I do. I want a little more of the comic book. Deadpool embraces the comic book. In all its goofiness, it says this is a comic book. This guy's made out of metal, and the girl's wearing an X-Men spandex suit, and Deadpool's wearing a red suit, and you know what I mean? It takes it all, and it embraces comic books. And X-Men has never, for me, embraced comic books full on. It's like they're trying too hard to be almost a Christopher Nolan type movie.
Yep.
But they're not that good. Sorry, you're not Christopher Nolan. So
No.
you're not that good. So you're failing. You're falling short on both sides. So.
I agree. I still think it kind of belongs there. That's why we gave it the little asterisk. I totally with you. I don't know if they could coexist, but who knows? We may or may not find out. There's rumors on that as well.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I could see it maybe more so in a cameo, unfortunately, but I don't. It would have to take somebody who's a really good director and a really good story to put the two together.
Matthew Vaughn.
There you go.
I wish Vaughn would come back.
Agree.
Because look at what Vaughn does with Kingsman. Look at how outrageous Samuel L. Jackson's villain is. It is a goofy concept, what he's doing with Kingsman.
Right.
And there are moments in Kingsman that it is violent and disturbing and action-packed, and then there's other moments that it's almost camp.
Right.
You know, so I think give him the franchise back. Now he may say, no thanks. Now I got Kingsman and I'm doing just fine over here. I don't want to deal with that shit. Yeah, he's like, I don't want to deal with that, the headaches of dealing with X-Men. But someone like him, I mean, it's time to try a new face. You know, it's kind of even like we talk about your favorite Star Wars. I mean, even Lucas got boring. You know, we needed a new something, and Abrams came in and gave us something new. It's time for a fresh face to take over the X-Men. Is what I would like to see. Marvel doesn't keep the same directors. As much as I love the Russos, you know, let's finish Infinity Wars and let's bring in some new guys too, because you want a fresh take. You want to keep doing something different.
No, I guess Vaughn. I was trying to think if somebody else could do it, but I think Vaughn's probably the only one. You know what I mean? I'm sitting here kind of just.
But
well, I don't know that there's others that could do it as well as he does. I don't know. I give him a lot of credit, man. He's come a long way. That's for damn sure. I think he's done great. Cool. What else, bud? What else?
That's about it. I mean, let's throw a hypothetical out there. Let's say, you know, the reviews are not great. The fans are definitely going to support it, but
you're talking about Apocalypse now.
Reviews are low. Even Captain America: Civil War, with its great reviews and all its great word of mouth, is not quite hitting the numbers everyone was hoping they'd hit. I think superhero movie, the average fan is getting a little tired. And it may not be, you know, people want to say fatigue. I think it's more the fact that they clumped them all together.
No, you're right. You're right. I could see that actually happening.
Let's say Apocalypse does really poor numbers.
Right.
And the Fox executives are looking at Deadpool, big numbers. Apocalypse, low numbers. Do you think they would maybe finally make this switch and go in a different direction and bring someone and say, and thanks Singer for all he's done, and bring someone new in, and maybe we get a new vision for the future of the X-Men?
It's a possibility. We'll have to see. It remains to be seen what we see next week. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But I could see. I don't at least see the franchise doing a total meltdown, you know, DC kind of thing, and just reshuffling everything right off the bat. But I do think that if this movie does poorly, some change is going to be made. I think Singer is definitely done and out. No more input, no more nothing. They're going to need.
I think still have input, but I think they might say we need something more like Deadpool. This worked.
Well, I don't know if they go Deadpool, but again,
well, you know the knee-jerk reaction of a studio,
right?
And that's why I mean it takes a good director.
Well, we're already getting the Wolverine rated R. True.
but the track record on the Wolverine movies isn't good. So let's see what that actually is.
But I honestly think rated R means more. If there's not a cameo by you know who, then it's going to be more violent, more bloody, like you were talking.
Oh, it's going to be more violent, bloody. I think that's exactly what it's going to be. That's why I said go watch that on. I think he's going out in a blaze of glory, if you ask me.
Yeah. For sure. Very cool. Very cool. It sounds like we are just about ready to wrap some things up. What do you say?
Yeah.
We do want to tell you that next week we will have our review of X-Men Apocalypse. I'm not sure if we'll have it early or not, but we will try to. If not, we might do one just a little late to catch up and make sure that we have it on time for you guys. Some things to keep in mind. Please remember, we have lost our banners here at our great Google Hangouts. So if you want to contact us directly, you can contact me at voodoo_57 on Twitter. And you can contact Speedy G at SpeedyG_33. Is that correct?
No, Speedy underscore
G33. That's my bad. My bad. And you can also find us at REEL, REEL_podcast on the Twitter feed. Also catch us at Real Comics Podcast on Facebook as well. We're just starting there. Go over there, like the page, check it out. We don't spam too much over there. We keep it kind of simple. And if you're watching us on YouTube or Google Hangout, subscribe and follow. We're going to try and also post some of the articles we were discussing early on, especially for the Star Wars Minute, back in our description. So look for that as well. Speedy G33, do you have anything else for the evening?
Nothing else.
Well, I think it's been a pretty good X-Men wrap-up. What do you think? I think we did a good job of covering all the bases there. That's for sure. It's kind of hard talking about movies when they're kind of up and down and a lot of downs in them, but I think we definitely survived it, and we're looking forward to the next X-Men movie to come out. And you know what? We're going to go ahead and say goodnight. Speedy G33, say goodnight.
Good night.
All right, everybody. You know what? As always, be your own hero and have a great evening. We will catch you guys later. Night.